Pigweed here. Today we review a Scotch ale and do a 5 for 5. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crow Hill. Good evening, Crow Hill.
Good evening, Pigweed.
What is on your mind?
Well, you know the idea of having a dialogue in your head where there's like things going on and like maybe there's a song playing in the background and
Okay.
there's you're having this dialogue internally.
Yeah.
Have you ever met somebody who doesn't have that?
What's going on in their little heads?
Yeah. It's amazed me that there's a high percentage of people, it's like 30% of people, don't have that dialogue going on in their head. Which,
so when, if somebody says, we're driving down the road, and my wife says, what are you thinking about? And I say, nothing. That just means that I don't feel like talking.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that there's nothing going on.
It doesn't mean there's nothing going on. Yeah. So there are people who really don't have anything going on.
No, and really, what's going on?
Nothing.
No, I mean it.
So I've had conversations with some of these people, and they say, they ask me what my experience is like, and my experience is, well, there's all this stuff going on. There's a song playing in the background. I've got I've got all these things in my head, and their reaction is, how do you cope with that?
It's not easy.
No, exactly.
It's not easy being me.
It's not easy what's going on in my head. It's like the voices, they're in there all the time. So
right, people are disagreeing.
I know. There's all kinds of arguments going on. So what's on my mind? All kinds of things. But today we're going to have to limit it to 5.
Yes, let's limit it to 5. And it seems like we just did this. What?
I know. It's because,
oh, I see. Look at the list.
It's all these topics. The world is full of problems and issues, and they're just assaulting me constantly. And the only way to get away from this stuff, the only way I can insulate myself from these voices and all this stuff is to have a beer and kind of calm it down a little bit
and talk about it for 5 minutes.
And talk about it for 5 minutes. That's right, because
and you just sort of purge that, like, all right,
exactly. Somebody was asking me, where do I get ideas for content in my professional life? Where do I get ideas? It's like, the problem is not the ideas. The problem is filtering through them.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so what do we have?
Well, tell me.
Founder's Dirty Bastard.
Right.
They say this is the beer that put them on the map.
Right.
Which is interesting because Founders is a great brewery. They do really good work. And this one is a Scotch ale. So what,
Did you say Scotch ale? Or did you say Scottish ale?
That's a good question.
Or is that the same thing?
Well, I said Scotch ale.
Okay, Scotch ale.
But that distinction between Scottish ale and Scotch ale got us into a bit of a conversation at a brew event a while ago.
Yeah. Right.
Because there apparently is a distinction between the two. Not a huge distinction.
And not a huge distinction, and not in the way that the guy suggested. Like you could just taste it. Well, how would you know?
Well, apparently Scottish ale is low alcohol, below 5%.
Right.
Both of them are going to use similar malts and similar yeasts and similar hops, but the Scottish ale is going to be sort of in the pale ale category or below.
Right.
And Scotch ale, if you think of it like the liquor, Scotch ale is going to be the more alcoholic one.
Also known as a wee heavy.
Oh yes, absolutely, a wee heavy, and it's going to be sweeter probably.
Yeah, and this puppy's a 8.5.
Yeah,
no
right.
Joke, and it's called the Dirty Bastard.
Once you get up into that range, you're with a Scotch ale kind of a style. You're usually looking for something that's going to be sweet. It's going to be malt forward. You're going to maybe even taste the alcohol.
Right. I get some. Go ahead and give that a try. It's suggested that there should be some toffee, some caramel, maybe some dried fruits in there.
Fruit, exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes there's a smokiness or peatiness.
Yeah, I'm not getting the smokiness, but the dried fruit just jumped out at me as soon as I took a sip. There's a lot of that kind of a flavor going on. I really like the strong Scotch ale kind of a style.
Now that you've made the distinction, I think of these as always being strong. So maybe I'm always drinking Scotch ales. I don't know if I've had a 5% Scottish ale.
Well, except for the one that we brewed for Chili Brew.
Robert the Bruce?
Robert the Bruce, which was a Scottish ale. It was UK malts, Scottish yeast.
But it wasn't up in the 7s and 8s.
It was not. It was a very drinkable, normal kind of a beer. Yeah. All right. Well, this is delicious. It's very good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a dirty bastard, personally.
No. But affectionately.
Affectionately, yes, affectionately. You dirty little bastard.
So.
All right. So 5 topics in 5 minutes. Let's see what we got here. What's number 1?
All right. So why can't we can't deport criminals? So Mayor Adams.
Yeah.
He's got these criminals. Running riot over the New York City and I don't know, all cities, who are illegal. Mm-hmm. And I recognize your reluctance to, because you're a sanctuary city and we're not going to deport people. But how about people that commit violent crimes on your street? Can you deport them? And he's like, well, not really. So you've already put yourself in a position that he has to change the laws to get rid of criminals out of his city. What are you talking about?
How did we get to such a place? I mean, it's really kind of crazy. Now, obviously, not all. We have to say this because we have to say this. Not all illegal immigrants are criminals beyond the fact that they're illegally in the country. A lot of them are just looking for a job and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But some portion of them are violent criminal extremists. They're gang members. They're coming in here. They're doing awful things.
So I just figured, you were just being reluctant to deport just the person who littering. You know what I mean? Like, right. But you really don't.
You're talking about people who attack cops.
They have actually created a mechanism preventing them from turning them over. So now you have to go through and convince your stupid city council that it's actually a good idea to get violent people out of the country. So let me give you my kindest scenario.
Okay.
So of course I don't think that none of them should be coming in. Mm. You come through the front door, or you get asylum. You apply for asylum and stay when you're.
As far as I'm concerned, just close the damn door. But anyway.
So let's just say that my kindest version is, let's say you're going to let them in and then give them their little ticket.
Yeah.
It says come to court in 18 months.
Yeah.
I would say, all right. So we got their name. Mm-hmm. We have a photograph. Mm-hmm. We have a fingerprint. We have a DNA swab. Then you give them this piece of paper that says, you agree to show up at this date, 21 of that, and you understand that you will be deported for any crime above a misdemeanor.
Okay.
What is that too cruel?
No.
Actually, you have to be a better citizen than American citizens in order to stay here because you're not a citizen.
Actually, the vast majority of countries in the world, that's what you're saying, which by American standards sounds harsh, that is more liberal than the vast majority of people. I can't just go to Switzerland right now and just
go to Japan.
Go to Japan and just say, here I am, give me food and give me shelter. Yeah. They'd kick you out in a moment. They wouldn't even let you in. The vast majority of countries in the world don't even let people in the way we do. So we're already
the non-Western world.
Yes. In Switzerland, you can't. You have to apply.
Are they in the EU?
Yeah, I guess they are.
I guess they are, but everybody in the EU is getting, except for the cool countries like Hungary and Poland, are getting swamped.
Yeah.
And because they're told that they have to.
Well, actually, that's a good question. I don't even know if Switzerland is in the EU, but I do know that they're
kind of a weird isolation.
I know.
They weren't even in World War II.
Yeah, I know. They're just an exception. But most countries are stricter in allowing people. If you look at South American countries, they don't let people just come in whenever they want to. Nobody does that.
So this is. I remember there was a raid on a Nebraska night shift slaughterhouse,
right,
for illegal aliens. I'm going, no, nobody wants to do that. Leave those people alone. The policy needs to be, if you stumble, if you do anything, if you urinate in public, it's like the broken windows version of immigration.
There you go.
Like we're not going to go checking IDs for every person that's not speaking English on the streets.
Yeah.
However, if we come in contact with you because you're misbehaving, you go.
Yeah. So it seems logical to me. Now, personally, I think if we have a problem with not having enough workers to work the night shift in a slaughterhouse, maybe we should stop killing all the potential workers, when they're infants. But so that might help. But even if we do need the workers, and okay, fine. We need to import some workers. That's great. But absolutely, we should tell them, no, you're in the United States now. You got to obey the rules.
And the consequences are greater for you than for a citizen because you're not a citizen.
Exactly.
You need to earn your. But the opposite is happening. We're having people.
We're giving
violent criminals, and the mayor is going, my hands are tied here.
I know.
How is it possible our hands are tied?
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Okay. Number 2. Sports Illustrated.
Yes, just tanked recently. How is that possible?
Well, there are a lot of reasons. I follow some, in my professional life, I follow some media blogs and podcasts and so forth. And there was a lot of complicated behind-the-scenes stuff going on about their financing and ownership.
They were sold twice, right? Yeah. They were sold and then sold again.
Yes. But
it's an American icon.
Yes. So all those things are true. There were some management issues and ownership issues, but the reason all those things were happening was because it was failing. So I think what happens is a lot of people look at the effect rather than at the cause. Right? They're saying, okay, it was sold and there was this problem and there was this financing problem. Okay, the reason you had those problems was because it wasn't making enough money. If it had been making enough money, those never would have been issues.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Right? They wouldn't have been sold to this other entity who thought that I can rescue the brand.
Yes.
But you wouldn't think that the brand wouldn't need rescuing because it's the most recognizable brand there is in the sports world. It's the longest living, and every analysis that I read had to do with market forces and internet changing. There are things that it did not talk about. Well, go ahead.
Sure. One of the things they didn't talk about is the fact that they veered away from sports and started getting into politics. That was the first problem.
Yeah.
And then the second problem was they started getting into all this woke stuff where the sports... Now, whatever you think of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, I think of it as soft porn personally, but whatever you think of it, they veered away from gorgeous women in bikinis to sticking... First it was fat people, and then it was trans people.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah. So every yearly subscriber enjoys his 11 issues, but boy, here comes the swimsuit issue. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's right. It's me not looking at porn, but almost
looking at porn.
And so this is going to be great. I can't wait. Mm-hmm. And then they start cramming down fatties and dudes.
Right.
And so, like I said, all of the industry type articles mention this 0 times on Twitter. It's all anybody did was post photos from these.
If you want to know why Sports Illustrated is failing, here's why.
Here's why. But nobody else wanted to. Everybody else was afraid to.
Nobody else was willing to touch it. And this gets back to something we talked about in a previous episode. Is this kind of craziness is allowed to happen because nobody has the courage to stand up and say the emperor has no clothes.
Right. So you would expect, in the Bud Light situation, that either you would expect the company to look at its audience and say, all right, how do I appeal to my audience?
Yeah.
When they do Dylan Mulvaney and when they do fatties and dudes, what they're saying is, I'm not telling you, I'm not trying to appeal. I am telling you what you should find attractive.
Exactly. And
that's insulting.
Of course it is. So there's a huge difference between...
Either you think that this is what I'm into, which means you don't know your audience,
right,
or you're telling me this is what I should be into.
You're lecturing me. You're telling me that I'm the great unwashed, that I'm a basket of deplorables, that I'm this... And you're going to now lecture me from your position, from your godlike position about this is the way society ought to be, and we're going to tell you what you should like. You must find this dude in a bikini attractive. It's like,
Yes,
and people
or
are
there's
saying,
something wrong with
no,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
like the this is healthy. So if you show some fatty on a health magazine and you say this can be healthy, like let's not judge too much, because just because you see a fatty like this, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not healthy. But they go beyond that. They go, this is healthy.
Right.
All right.
Exactly.
Shove it. And,
I know,
and guess
exactly.
what? The I don't know how long the magazine's been around, at least 40 years, right? More than that. So I can remember my whole life, and I'm 25, so it's probably longer than that.
Probably longer than that. Yeah. And you probably weren't reading when you were 2.
Right. And it tanks, and you don't even mention.
You're not even willing to consider that some of the reason for it tanking has to do with the fact that it went woke.
And went broke.
All right.
All right. Well, we're gonna. Do you want to stay right here in the sports field?
Sure. Let's stay with sports. All right.
So there were a couple of games: the Kansas City game and the Buffalo game.
Kansas City game was the 3rd coldest game ever, I think.
They had to postpone the Buffalo game twice.
Yeah.
Because now not for cold, it was just too much snow to.
Right. Yeah.
And it was so foggy you couldn't see across the field. So they're like, all right. So they postponed it, but it was still super freezing cold.
Yeah.
But guess what? People in Buffalo, that's what they know.
That's right. Yeah.
So some fans got hypothermia, and I saw an article that said the NFL may want to reconsider its cold weather policy. So they cancel games for lightning, but that's about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no weather.
Football
could be 100 degrees.
Football's a man's game. It's tough. They're going to be playing. They're going to be wiping off the mud and the blood and the dirt and everything else.
We love it.
Yeah,
that's why we go.
Yeah, it's
and people
tough.
are willing to go. So we did a show on should the government save me from myself?
Yes.
And so I saw this as the NFL saying, well, people might not be able to make the decision for themselves whether or not it's too cold to attend a game.
They might not have the sense to put on an extra pair of pants.
Yes,
something.
or there's going to be the guy with his shirt off.
Yeah.
Did you want to make it illegal to pull your shirt off so that you get on the campus on the camera so you don't get?
What would you think if your town said, we're going to have an inspector come by and make sure that you're properly dressed before you leave the house?
Yeah.
Is that what we're coming down to?
Yeah. Like, what do you mean?
It's cold outside. I mean, that's what your mother does. It's cold outside. Put on a sweater. Do you want the town councilman to meet you at the front door?
Someone drive by.
No. Put on a scarf.
Let me check those mittens there, sir.
Exactly. Those mittens aren't up to speed.
Yeah. Well, I'll make that decision for myself if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But what if, as far as I could tell from the article, it just had to do with fans and hypothermia. Right. But if, on the other hand, Yeah,
there are other issues about cold. Obviously, your body doesn't react to cold very well, and there are more injuries in cold weather. Right. So just as they have concerns about gear, they want to make sure the helmet is better.
Yeah.
They have rules against certain kinds of hits, which I'm totally in favor of. Let's make sure that we're trying to protect the players as much as possible. It's a violent game, but let's do what we can to protect them. I understand that. And if they wanted to say, look, below this temperature, the players are going to get hurt because your body just isn't as limber and all that kind of stuff.
If it's the players' union, with the coaching staff and the owners, right. And they want to, all of them together decide, well, we'll meet in the off season and reassess our but
a lot of sports have that kind of thing. When I was a kid, I was big into swimming, and there were rules about like the pool had to be clear enough that you could see the main drain. You can see,
right. You can see a kid lying on the bottom.
That's right. Or there can't be lightning with this. There's all kinds of rules that are reasonable rules to protect the safety of the participants, which I get it. But if some idiot wants to come to a game in Buffalo when it's 20 degrees out and he's wearing shorts and no shirt, why is that the NFL's problem? It's like, okay, you're an idiot. You should put on a coat. But what are they going to do? Do we want to have a nanny state?
Yes,
where
nanny state.
where every organization is telling you what's best for you, and because sometimes they're right, but sometimes they're just being a pain in the rear.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the freedom and stupidity.
Yeah.
Over nanny state.
Yeah, I was at an event recently that was a little cold. It was a dancing thing, and it was right next to the ice skating rink, so they kept the room kind of cold. And I was just wearing a short sleeve shirt, and people were saying, "Aren't you cold?" And I'm like, "Well, no. I mean, my skin is cold. I feel cold on my skin, but my body is plenty warm." But like, what if they were able to say, "No, you have to go put on a sweater"?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Or you know what? I hadn't thought of that until you brought it up. Now you're right. I am cold, and I'm going to go to my room and get. I mean, don't you trust that the guy who's wearing less clothes than you knows how to? Don't you think you should? Yeah. Don't you think you should put on a sweater?
Boy, it never occurred to me. It never occurred to me that
that's an option.
Like how many clothes I wear has something to do with how warm I feel. Like nobody ever thought of that until you mentioned it. All right, so that's the end of the NFL. What else we got here? Well, we have, we tried this once before.
Oh, no, we tried. Yeah, we didn't get very far. This is grammar and
usage and
things that bother us.
Things that bother us, and there's some obvious ones like ITS versus IT apostrophe S.
Yeah,
it's and it's.
Yeah. Or this is. I tell you, I should keep a running count. How many unnecessary apostrophes do you see in a week? It'll be like. Hot dogs, 3 for $1. Like, what's with the?
Why did you put an apostrophe in there? Yeah.
I think I saw one. It was this like stupid like tough guy Harley shirt.
Yeah.
It was badass boys have badass toys. But there's only an apostrophe in one of the two.
I'm like after boys or something.
It's after boys or toys, but it wasn't in both.
Like what?
It's either both or neither. I mean, you don't even know what you're doing here. But I see that necessary apostrophe.
Yeah, and this one is so easy. Is apostrophe S? Well, in the cases you raised, it might have to do with possessive or something. But
yes.
But it's versus it's apostrophe S. It's versus it is.
Do you know what a contraction is?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a short version of two words, in which case, it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be hard.
It shouldn't be hard. Okay, so then versus than. So then, THEN, reverse the time. I did this, then I did that.
Right.
Than is used in comparisons. This is better than that. Right?
That's pretty. It's
pretty simple. It's pretty simple and straightforward. A lot of these are simple.
You see, right? I mean, I mean, simple in terms of that's a nice, easy rule to work with. Mm-hmm. This one. This is one that I know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
But it hits my ear kind of funny.
Yeah.
And it's that media and data
I know.
are plural.
Yes.
And so every time I hear the people do it properly.
Yeah, it just rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah, I go,
I
know that's right. That sounds fun. Data are. Mm-hmm. And then what I probably do is say data is, and as soon as it comes out of my mouth, I go, Argh. Yes. And then I just keep moving on and go, I'm pretty sure that was wrong. But,
that's one of those ones where. So there's different attitudes towards language. One attitude is that you have these rules and you follow the rules strictly. But the other attitude is, people kind of make shortcuts and they change things. Yeah. And so I tend more towards the evolving language, people make shortcuts and that's okay kind of side of things.
I know you're not supposed to end a sentence in a preposition, but
or start one with butter and or something.
Yeah. I know that's right, but I'm not going to say for whom did I buy this beer?
Exactly. Yeah. I know. So even while we're trying to be a little nitpicky about some of these things, generally speaking, I'm like, okay, if that's what everybody says, then that's what everybody says. And I'm not going to get too upset about it. How about your versus your?
Yeah, that's
it seems like another one, pretty obvious.
But again, we're back to the contraction thing. Yeah. It's like, is this a substitute for two words, that means you're going to use the apostrophe one.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, then it's the
Then
possessive
don't
one.
do that. Yeah, it's really not that tough. And then 2, 2, and 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I sent the ball to so and so, and then 2, TWO is the number 2, and 2 is also or excessively, like you went too far. You know, it should be relatively clear, but it's not.
Yeah. This is, I don't know, some of this stuff is, I don't know, fourth grade maybe?
Yeah, I know, exactly.
And
you should have figured
yet
this
you
out.
can see it on a billboard somewhere.
You
Like,
see
really?
it wrong. You see it wrong, and you go, "Come on, there."
That's and yes, I had them on again. This is grammar school.
I know. This is the kind of stuff that you really should have known. Now, principal versus principal is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
A principal is a person who is in charge, and a principle, PLE, is a fundamental truth or a rule. Mm-hmm. So that one gets
I would put capital and capital in that with that
same
one.
area.
Yeah.
It's same sort of a problem.
It's always like, all right, and that's when I just being next to the nation's capital.
Yeah.
You see it written probably more than not. So I just say, okay, OL, that's the nation's capital, and I can keep that straight.
So we only have time for one more. I'm going to have to go with this one. Insure, assure, ensure.
Actually, that's just a toughie.
Yeah, so insure, IN, has to do with insurance.
Okay.
Assure, ASS, has to do with give confidence. I'm going to assure you that everything is okay.
Right.
Ensure is to make sure that it happens or is so.
Okay, I think the first one is easy. The other two, that's where the mix-up comes.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with that one. But anyway, so there you go. A little bit of a grammar lesson. We have one more.
we still have enough on the list. There's going to be more of that in the next 5 for 5.
Yes. All right. So here we are. Voting for the good of the country, even if it affects you negatively.
Okay, so what I got thinking about, well, one time my wife was working for Catholic Charities, which is a big promoter of getting people their citizenship.
Yes.
And this was before Trump, so whoever it was, she was like, so and so, whoever's running, so and so wants to reduce the number of immigrants coming into the country, and that could affect my job. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not voting on whether or not you get to keep your job. I'm voting for what I think is the best thing for the country.
Yes.
And there was a little bit of back and forth about that. And so, in general, I was thinking, then the guy from Argentina, Malay.
Yeah.
Fuera, fuera, fuera. So this government has just been bloating itself for decades.
And he goes through all these agencies and we say, we don't need an entire agency, Ministry of Comic Book Culture or whatever the heck it is. He's like, no, out.
But the potential problem with democracy is that once more than 50% of the people are voting for anybody who will give them more stuff.
Yes.
Then democracy is screwed.
The quote is, democracy will only endure until people realize that they can vote themselves largesse at the public trough.
Yes. So when I see this overwhelming victory by Malay in Argentina, I'm thinking some of those people have to be people who are about to get cut.
Yes.
That these are people who go.
I know that my agency is stupid, and it's been a good run, but yes, for the good of the country, we got to get rid of this.
My mom got laid off, got furloughed during under Reagan, and she's like, yeah, I don't do that much anyway. And then like a month later, she got her job back.
Right.
But she didn't hold it against Reagan. She's like, yeah, it was kind of redundant anyway.
Yeah.
So there must be a lot of the people in Argentina who are actually going to not benefit, but who feel that the country as a whole will benefit, and that is a great thing. So that goes counter to that quote that you had, that if everybody's strictly voting in their own self-interest,
and they're not, and they're clearly,
which is great to know.
They're clearly not, and some people, they say their pocketbook issues, and people vote their pocketbook. There's some of that, but there are also people who are willing to say, no, I'm going to support this action even though it might mean my son in the Marine Corps is going to go die.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so there are people who actually have principles.
Well,
and,
you know, and I'm glad to see that they're more than I gave them credit for. I apologize. Yes. Apparently that goes on. Can I get to the tough one here?
Okay.
This is a toughie.
Okay.
If you're a parent of a hostage, and you can either pressure your government to concede or acquiesce in whatever manner in order to get your son or daughter back, versus the person who knows by doing that you will damage the country more broadly. But I will get my daughter back. So the person who takes the position of, I know that this taking this stance is more of a danger. But it's better for the nation. Boy, that is tough.
It is.
I mean,
tough,
I don't blame you one bit if you go in there protesting the government and whatever else because you want your daughter back. I get it, but I'm sure there are people who think otherwise.
Yeah, I remember a conversation online where it was a discussion about foreign policy issues, and I took some particular position, and the other person was saying, "Well, that's easy for you to say. You have no skin in the game."
Yeah.
Well, I have a daughter who's in the Air Force.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
right.
so-
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
There you go. And so whether or not we have aggressive foreign policy, yes, you've got a daughter that's talking about skin. That's skin. That's the biggest skin you could have, right?
That's right. So I think it's important to realize that, yes, a lot of people are simply going to vote their own interests, and you can't blame them for that. That's, they're looking out for themselves. Okay,
but
fine.
The quote suggests that everyone will do it, and it will be the demise of the system.
And that gets back to our John Adams episode,
Yes.
which is you have to have a people who are willing to say, this doesn't help me. They need to say, this is
Right? A principled
position, that this is right, even if it means I die, my kids die, I lose my job, I have to pay more in my taxes, whatever it is. But this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So you do that thing.
And yes, so I am encouraged that people are willing to vote something other than their pocketbooks.
Yes, exactly. And the people in Venezuela and so forth seem to be doing that, and God bless them.
Yeah, bless them. And there are inspiring other countries.
Yeah.
So that's 5 topics in 5 minutes.
All right, and we're cutting through the list. We still have too many things. There's still too many voices.
Yes,
still too many voices.
Still too many voices. All right, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.